Hello and welcome to Basiltov, the courage and creativity of ADHD. I'm
I'm
Jen,
Ellen.
And I'm Annette.
and we're here to talk about when you should leave a toxic situation. Did
Should I
you
stay
know?
or should I go?
Yes.
Yes.
How do you know?
Should you?
How do you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of people can't tell,
Mhm.
maybe especially ADHD people, because we're more likely to be placed in these toxic situations, whether it's a relationship, a work environment, a religion, what have you. There are many forms of potential toxic situations out there in life, and it can be really confusing as to when you should work on it versus when you should just get the fuck out.
Yeah.
so, um,
Get the fuck out.
yeah. So we're going to kind of go over this one because it can be so hard to tell, especially if you've had people telling you that you're too emotional or that you just don't think things through all the time, that maybe you shouldn't be trusting your intuition. And how many times do especially women with ADHD get told these
Oh my
things?
God. It's so
Like
true.
a
Yeah.
lot.
Oh, you never finish anything that you start. You just got to stick with it. Like, how many times have we heard that in our lives? So, yeah,
Yeah.
that
Right.
voice, that
Yeah.
authoritative voice in your head that's telling you, no, just got to keep working on it, but then,
Yeah.
yeah, what if you're going down the wrong road?
And what if you're just wasting your time?
Exactly. How do we know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will find out as we
Yeah.
discuss.
Yes.
Maybe.
And Annette, I believe you said at some point earlier that ADHD people have a greater likelihood of being in toxic or abusive relationships.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different areas of the ADHD mind that kind of set us up for failure in the relationship department if you're in a bad situation. I also there's statistics out there that um like a 6 out of 10 people with ADHD or you're 6 times more likely to have been abused as a child
Mm.
than not to have been. So there's probably quite a
That doesn't
few
help.
listeners out
Yeah.
there who can kind of relate. I was definitely, I mean, I love my dad, but I could definitely, just from a clinical standpoint, be able to classify my childhood upbringing as abusive.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
there's been lots of healing in there, and it's fine. But that was my reality, and so I can definitely relate with that statistic. And a lot of what happens with ADHD, especially with abuse or being told that you're not focusing or you're not a good child, or these things in childhood affect your attachment styles. And so you become either avoidant attachment style or anxiety prone, like an anxious attachment style. So like you're holding on to something and you're like, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me, and you're holding on to it like Lenny with the mouse, or the kitten in Mice and Men. I think it's mouse,
Yeah.
but he just can't let it go, and
Mm-hmm.
so you're holding on like that, or you become just like kind of passive on everything, like it's okay,
Mm.
whatever. And the people with the avoidant attachment styles actually tend to have better relationship quality assessments.
Oh, really?
So because if you're kind of avoidant and your partner is also kind of avoidant, it's kind of like you live in the house together and you interact, but you don't necessarily need to feed off of each other. And so yeah, it's it's an interesting thing
Yeah.
that if you're kind of avoidant and your partner is also avoidant, it can actually be a decent situation in some
That makes
ways.
sense. Like
But
it's
if your
yeah.
style doesn't,
Just depends on what you
but
want.
if your style doesn't match, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mhm.
it's never good to be anxious though. So,
Yeah.
and running
So
away from being avoidant in all situations, not dealing with things that are coming up because you're just like, nah, it's okay, it's okay. I mean, that's not necessarily healthy either. However,
yeah.
it is easier to stay in a relationship in that way
Mhm.
than if
Yeah.
you're anxious about everything all the time, because that affects your health. Now, with that
Mhm.
said, we are taught to stay, put our nose to the grindstone, and stay with things and stay with things. But
Mhm.
when do you know whether that thing is working for you, and when do you know that that thing is not going to work for you in a relationship? How do you know being with this person, mm, maybe that's a good thing, or maybe I should stick this out and see where it goes? So there's
Mhm.
a couple of things to look out for in every situation and every relationship that you have, that people with ADHD also tend to like hope for the best.
Oh yeah, I'm an eternal
And
optimist.
Yeah.
I also feel like I have, I personally have trouble planning ahead, and so I don't think that helps me either in situations where I'm not sure if I should stay or go, because I just kind of take it one moment at a time. I'm not always thinking about the future.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That could
What
I
about
could
you,
see how
Jen?
that would be kind of blinding, like not being able to consult the future on this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but oh wait, sorry. What was the question is specifically for me what now?
Like, do you plan out your future, or like, are you an optimist?
Oh, okay. I don't know. I've been accused of being both an optimist and a pessimist, depending on
Oh,
who
combined
is
type.
talking. Um, Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, I think I try to keep it real, try to keep it somewhere in the middle, and really just examine situations. I think when I was younger, I was more likely to be optimistic. And then in my earlier adulthood, I was more likely to be pessimistic.
Mm.
And now I kind of feel like I've balanced out and I just kind of weigh the
Yeah, you're a
situation
realist,
and
maybe. I
see.
don't know.
Maybe I get if that's what the middle is called, then I guess.
I think that is a realist. I mean, when you're able to look at both the negative sides and the positive sides of something, I think that's
Yeah.
you're living in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So,
I have attempted to live in reality, and I think I'm succeeding.
Yeah, I think I just kind of have
But
I don't know what to even attribute this trait to exactly, but I just kind of hope for the best in like all situations in my life. So unless
Mhm,
something is blatantly off or wrong, I'll probably just keep going and
mhm.
let little things slide along the way, but I don't really do a lot of critical thinking so much sometimes.
yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Well, and with since we're talking about any toxic situation right here, something that can be applied to every single toxic situation that you have is, what are your red flags?
Mhm.
Yeah.
What are the things that are kind of nagging at you in the back of your head, and something sets you off and you're not sure why?
Mhm,
Now, sometimes we have red flags because it's a defense mechanism, and it's good to know that. But however, in any situation that you think that could possibly be toxic or not be working out for you, I have learned to always make a list. I make a list of the pros and I make a list of the cons.
Mhm.
And now when I look at the list, if your cons are outweighing your pros, then you got to get out.
Yeah.
That
mhm.
is probably the
Yeah.
simplest, just that's so basic. And of course, there's nuance and everything, but like the most
Mhm,
basic thing you can do is, what are the pluses? What are the minuses? Which one is heavier? And if you can see a way out and your cons are pretty high, you should probably consider, leaving that job, or
Mhm.
getting out of that relationship, or maybe leaving
mhm.
that church or that situation that you're in that's,
Yeah.
causing you
Mhm.
emotional distress. Because what toxic
Yeah.
situations are is anything in your life that is bringing negative psychological impact to your life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between being stressed out because you have a lot of work and then feeling demeaned, attacked, and not being able to do your job properly at work and feeling personally degraded.
Mhm. I think it's also
So,
important
Right.
to think about who are you and what do you want in life? Like, you got to figure yourself out first, too. And I don't think I did that until I was like 38 years old, you know? And so like, you can
yesterday.
make you can make a pros and cons list, but if you don't know what your priorities are in life, then it's going to be hard to know how to prioritize what like maybe some of the maybe there's more cons, but those pros are like really really good pros. And so and it just depends on what season you're in life, what situation you're in. Maybe you're in a bad job or a toxic job, but it pays really well and you really need that money right now, so you're just going to have to stick it out a little longer. But oh, it just so I guess
Yeah, those are the
yeah, the
nuances.
total nuances, but yeah, just
Yeah.
figure out what's important to you. Do you want more peace in your life, or do you want more money in your life, or you know, what do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I will go as far as to say that if you're in a toxic work environment or a toxic relationship where you fundamentally feel mentally unbalanced, emotionally unbalanced, and it's affecting your health or your well being, then even if it's paying a lot of money, you really need to think through that
Hmm.
because having negative emotional impact, having negative psychological impact, that affects your health and your longevity and your happiness
It's so
overall. So
true.
is it
Mhm.
worth it?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that "is it worth it" part is so important, and, like, you can attach a lot of meanings to the word worth. Like, when people are talking about worth, because of the way that our capitalist culture is here in America, we automatically start seeing dollar signs in the back of our minds when we talk about worth or value. But there are many types of worth or value out there, like emotional worth versus monetary worth. So
Hmm.
just because something is, might be worth it on a monetary scale, like if you're being paid an obscene amount of money to do something and you just absolutely hate it, like maybe the management sucks. Maybe they just like they're so mean to people. Maybe they require you to work a 60, 70-hour work week. Maybe you don't have time for your kids, your leisure pursuits, your family. You don't have time to just even take a breath sometimes, or you feel like you don't. Then it's not emotionally worth it to you, and eventually it won't be physically worth it to you either.
Yeah, or maybe you're a woman
Yeah.
who hasn't had a job in a very long time and your husband provides for you and he makes a lot of money, but it's a horrible marriage and you want to leave, but you just know, you feel like there's no way you could make it on your own. And so that's something you're
Mhm.
wrestling with right now. I mean, I think,
That's a hard
yeah,
one.
that's a real hard one
That's a
because
hard one.
security is
Yeah.
really important. That's like a basic human need, to feel
Yeah.
safe and secure. And I mean, a lot of that does come from
Mhm.
having money and a house and security.
Maslow's hierarchy of
Right. Yeah. So
needs.
that makes it so hard.
Security is one of the foundational parts, that's
Yeah.
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 It
that
can
can
be
make the whole
very
pyramid
difficult.
crumble.
Hmm.
Yeah, like in previous life, when I'm hearing this, I'm relating it to, to abusive situations
Hmm.
because I've been in a quite an abusive relationship where I actually went to domestic violence counseling afterward in both a group and an individual setting. And there were other women in my group who were saying, I know he's abusing me. I can't get out. I want to get out, but it's gonna take me at least 10 more years to leave
Wow.
based on the circumstances. And, like, I would just listen to this and go, "Oh my gosh, like, that is awful," because, like, some people will find themselves in a situation where they're choosing between going into a shelter or living in a home, and some people are not, they're not sure if they're willing to live in a shelter.
Mhm.
And, you can stay through a whole lot of abuse, whether it's good for you or not, just to get that basic need of shelter met. Um, so and it kind of sucks because, people who say I can't leave even though I want to leave, they often get judged really harshly for that. And that's not something that excuse me, that's not something that we should be judging people for.
Mm-mm.
It's just, where they're at. But it can also lead to very dangerous situations where the abuser knows how much control they have, and if they start thinking they can get away with worse and worse, then, that's exactly what's going to happen. So, um,
Mhm.
and just, I guess for the sake of discussing this, since we're on relationships right
Yeah.
now, um, I personally make a distinction between a toxic relationship and an abusive relationship.
Mhm.
To me, it's a difference in, like, in malfeasance, I guess, like, if you
Ooh,
wanna
cool
say it like
word.
that. If it's a difference in
Mm.
yeah, it's a difference in, like, in the overall, like, just and how it
Do they
affects you.
mean
So, like,
to?
yeah, like some of it could be intentional versus unintentional. Some of it could be, and also some of it's the severity of the issue.
Yeah.
So just so that people can kind of get their minds around what I would consider a toxic relationship versus an abusive one, based on my own past experiences, I wrote out a short list. So, things that I would consider toxic red flags in a relationship would be things like the partners are competing with each other instead of cooperating with each other.
Mm.
So, when you kind of get in pissing contests over who has the better cell phone, or whose job makes more money, or who contributed more to their IRA this year, or, like, it can get really petty, but that is
Yeah,
what I would
that's
consider
my toxic
toxic.
trait.
Competitive.
Competition with your husband.
Yeah, and yeah, my ex-husband and I, it was bad,
Oh.
but like with my husband now, I mean, it's kind of he kind of has it too.
Mhm.
So we're always
Mm.
kind of side-eyeing. It's our toxic trait,
It's
but
just
like overall
mildly
our marriage,
toxic.
yeah, overall our
Yeah.
marriage is
To-
okay. So like, yeah,
toxic light.
but
Yeah, like, you can have
toxic
Yeah.
toxic
light.
traits in toxic. Does it
We're
have
diet
Diet
rainbows on the
toxic.
toxic.
can?
That's right. All the flavor, none of the
If it has
carbs.
rainbows on the can, I'm in.
There you go. Yep.
Um,
I
so,
don't think I could
yeah,
be in a like not little bit of toxic relationship
Ooh,
just
that's
because
interesting
like
insight.
that. Well, yeah, because I think it's fun. I think arguing is fun, and
Oh man, I cannot relate to that.
so
I don't know.
I'll
there
apologize when I'm
there
wrong.
No, I love it. What you
there
do, what
have
works
been
for you. I love that you know yourself. Okay, sorry, Jed.
That's very honest.
Yeah,
Like, I applaud your honesty.
totally.
But I've actually read, I can't remember what study it was now, but I was reading a study on ADHD and toxic and abusive relationships, and they had pointed out that ADHD people can either be the aggressor or the victim in that situation,
Hmm.
but either way, we're more likely to do it. And so things like impulsive behavior would be contributing to the aggressive, like how likely you are to be the aggressor. And since Annette is our hyperactive slash impulsive type, it works. Um, I yeah. So another toxic trait in a relationship, in my opinion, would be insensitivity toward the other person's emotions
Mm.
in a relationship. So if you have trouble with, taking somebody else's feelings into account, or if your partner does, then, that's something that's a toxic situation. Um there's also when one partner or maybe both partners takes credit for the work or ideas of the other partner.
Ooh.
So, which is yeah, like I've experienced this one. It's not fun. And I think a lot of women experience this because men are are more likely to um take credit for the thoughts or opinions or creative things of their wives than
Mhm.
yeah, I know, right? um and then also, if a partner is making unreasonable demands of your time, I would consider that like a toxic
Mhm.
thing. Where, and I'm not talking about to the extreme. I'm talking like, you really want some you time, but that person is just unrelenting and they for some reason can't listen to the word, hey, I need just a little bit of time to myself just to take a breath
Yeah,
for a
they don't
minute.
respect boundaries
That
maybe.
it's it's hedging
Yeah.
on abusive behavior,
Mhm.
but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, you that can be a red flag for more serious behavior later on if it gets really, really
Yeah,
bad.
I could see that leading to
So
controlling behavior from there.
yes, yeah. So
Or
the
harassment.
Mhm.
determination here yes. So the determination is whether or not you're actually like really being harassed or controlled by this behavior. If you can't really say, well, I'm not really being harassed or controlled, I'm really just being annoyed
Mhm.
by it. Well, then,
That's just
okay, then
toxic,
it's
not
toxic.
abusive. Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
yes, not
Makes
abusive.
sense.
Yeah. And then the final toxic trait that I had here was unequal labor in a relationship. So
Mm.
whether that's unequal workloads, like one person takes care of the kids constantly without the other person, giving them a break or helping out in any way, or if they're always the one to do the house cleaning, literally like most of it or all of it sometimes, or if you're constantly the one who is doing the emotional labor where you're catering to somebody else's feelings all the time without a whole lot of concern going back your way, that inequality creates a toxic environment.
Yeah, it sure can.
So, yeah, yeah, that's when you're not feeling heard or
That
respected
can create a lot
and
of
your
resentment.
feelings are starting to
Yeah,
get hurt.
resentment can build up over
It
time. Quick
can.
or can build up pretty quickly
Yeah,
actually.
toxic behavior can absolutely create resentment over time. And I think what really makes toxic behavior toxic and not abusive is the fact that it's workable.
Mhm.
It's not like irreparable damage. It's not something that would cause PTSD. It's something that's, very frustrating to deal with and can feel like it's taking quite a toll on you, but it's not like, you know, really affecting the health of your entire life.
Yeah. So
Um,
do you feel
so
like someone who's in a toxic relationship has hope to turn that around into a healthy relationship? Like, do you feel like if it's toxic,
Yeah.
maybe
oh
you should
yeah.
stay and try and work on it? Like, there's a chance?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so when you're talking toxic relationships, you hear stuff you might hear your friends say things like, "God, my wife was so annoying. She just, we had plans, she ditched them at the last minute to go with her friends. Really hurt my feelings." Or, "My husband, gosh, he just never cleans up after himself and it is really frustrating having to pick up after him all the time." And these are situations where, arguably, they could talk about it if they both have, a healthy mindset. They could communicate. They could maybe go to therapy. They could, work this stuff out between them. But when it gets to be like a real pull on your life in such a way that this behavior is like
Mhm.
disruptive to your life in some way, then that's when you've started to turn the corner into abusive territory. And there are actually a bunch of different forms of abuse, that like we sometimes don't even really consider. We just, feel their effects.
Mm.
So something that would be abusive would be like, so instead of being insensitive to somebody's feelings, actively taking pleasure in somebody's embarrassment,
Oof.
that's abusive. So that's where we've turned the corner from this person's kind of an insensitive jackass to this person is kind of malevolent.
Yeah.
Like they make fun of you in public and then laugh at you. They might make you the butt of every joke amongst your friends. If something embarrassing happens to you while you're out, just, out of bad luck, they might be the first to start laughing about it. That is not somebody who's on your side.
Yeah.
That's
That's
somebody
not
who
good.
is in it for themselves. They wanna look better than you, and they're gonna point out whatever flaws they can to get what they want.
Well, and a
Um,
lot of times they'll point out their flaws to make you feel broken so that they have a stronger like hold over you. So it's a
Mm.
that
it
is manipulation.
yeah.
That's yeah, that's total manipulation, but yeah, they sometimes will come off looking very pitiful, especially if they're a narcissist who's very good at manipulating other people. They might play the woe is me, the violin story. Narcissists are really good at playing the emotional violin
Hmm.
and getting people on their side and making you out to be, the evil one in the situation. But I digress. Um, Another abusive thing is physical aggression. If you have any physical aggression in your relationship at all, it's abusive,
Mm.
period. Like there is no excusing even like I used to be in a relationship when I was very young where it was competitive. He would constantly take credit for my ideas, and if I happened to say something that was smart or witty, or if I had the upper hand out in public, he would just like shove me into a wall and be like, "Oh, sorry, oops, I didn't mean to do it that hard," and like make it a joke. And
Whoa.
and that's something that, like, since I had an abusive household growing up, I didn't
You thought it was
automatically.
normal.
So he was
Yeah, I didn't automatically think.
he was doing it like haha and like joking, push you into the wall, but trying or
Yeah,
pretending.
or he'd like kick me in the knee and be like, "You're such a bitch,"
Oh,
and
that's
and like
interesting.
name
So
calling.
that is that kind of how
Yeah,
is that
but
how
it
it
was
started?
it was
Yeah,
never
it was pretty.
anything that was.
Yeah, it was. I know
Yeah.
exactly who she's talking about.
Yeah,
So,
but like, cause I can, that's so sneaky because like to a lot of people that might look really
Yeah.
benign, like they're just joking
but
around.
he's
Yeah.
charming. He
Yeah,
has a very charming
yeah. So that's
personality, and
sneaky.
he just pulls
Mhm.
it off like, "Oh, we're just joking,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just like, yeah." But
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't like that.
Yeah, and then if you
super,
it's one of those
super abusive.
situations where if you argue with it, everybody else winds up thinking that you're, like, testy as a person or that you're being
Yeah,
unfair.
yeah.
So being in that situation is a lose-lose, and it's really hard to navigate, to be
Wow.
honest.
Mm,
Um, Another thing that is abusive, outright, is gaslighting.
Mm.
Now, there's
no,
a lot of confusion about what gaslighting is in a relationship. And so some people take it to mean like if somebody is telling you something that puts you on a fence, that it's gaslighting, but that's not what it is.
no,
It's
no,
not just saying something offensive. It's not just harping on people about where they could grow up or get better strengths or whatever.
no.
It's
It's
none of
changing
that.
reality.
Mm.
It is changing your mental reality or how you perceive yourself. So gaslighting is what happens when somebody manipulates you into thinking that you are maybe either crazy or that you have a warped perception of
Mm-hmm.
reality or that you're not seeing things accurately. It's what happens to ADHD people with emotional oh gosh,
Dysregulation.
Annette, I'm losing the word.
Yes,
Yes, emotional
dysregulation. Yeah,
dysregulation. When everybody's like, "You're too emotional about this. You're just too sensitive to something that really genuinely hurt your feelings." That's also gaslighting.
Oh my
So, just
God.
because the person has an emotional like an issue with managing their emotions or with feeling them, doesn't mean it's okay for you to tell them that whatever offended them shouldn't have
So if
offended
you
them.
go, if you,
So,
Yeah, in that one though, in that
yeah.
way, in that instance, I wouldn't put that under gaslighting
Hmm.
because gaslighting is a very intentional thing. Even psychologically, if you look up
yes,
the definition of it, it is
that's true.
very
That's true.
there is malice behind it. Now,
Okay.
a mother telling their child like, no, it's not really a big deal or anything, like it's being dismissive. I put that as dismissive, not
Gaslighting.
necessarily
It's
gaslighting.
diet
Okay.
gaslighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Diet
Diet
Okay.
gaslighting.
gaslighting.
So what about that's
Gaslight
right.
light.
What about the example when you
Yes.
go to your partner and you tell them this is how I feel about something and they say, "Oh, well you shouldn't feel that way because blah 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 blah." Is that gaslighting?
I think that's
Okay.
dismissive. No, I think that's dismissive. Gaslighting is like when you said, "No, dude, you said this like 2 days ago." And they said, "I never said that."
Mm.
You must be remembering and misremembering. It must have gotten into your mind and you mixed it up in something because I never said that. No, I absolutely heard you say that. No, I never said anything like that. Are you
Okay,
okay?
so just
Mhm.
denying
Like that's
facts. Yeah.
gaslighting. Or
Yeah.
or
That's
changing reality, like saying, "Yeah, this thing happened," and you're like, "No, it didn't,"
Mhm.
and they're like, "Yeah, it did. Everybody saw it. What are you talking
Okay,
about?"
that's
Like,
sneaky.
yeah, that's gaslighting.
That makes sense.
yeah, it's really like it gets to the heart of, of how you view your own mental status.
Yeah.
So, you sit back and go, gosh, maybe I'm unreasonable. Maybe I need therapy. Maybe I'm the person who's in the wrong here, and you start to question your own um just your own even sometimes like your yeah, I'm sorry. My words are failing me right now.
Yeah,
Um,
your own recall, your own memories,
yeah,
yeah, your own
your
Mhm.
recall
sanity.
and memories.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
That's so true. And I
but
mean,
like,
a lot of
So,
us ADHDers have poor memory issues already, like
yeah,
me. Yeah, and
exactly.
so if
That's
someone's like, "Oh no, that's not how it happened," I'm just like, "Oh, they're probably right because I forget."
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Right.
absolutely have the same issue in that like I have memory
mhm.
issues.
Yeah.
So, but if I remember something, I'm like, no, because I have some people gaslight unintentionally,
Mhm.
and it's not they don't know that they're doing it, but because they're
They're
just
just stubborn.
manipulative
Yeah.
people. No, they're just
They
really
probably
manipulative
learned it.
people.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I have two people in my house who are divorced. And yeah, and so like they'll be like, "No, I never said that," or like it was like this, and I'm like, no. And I've said to my husband, who is one of our naturally born gaslighters, that like I know he does it. So like I constantly say to him, I'm like, I need to have a recorder running constantly when you're talking
Yeah.
to me so that I can go back and go, "Hey, because you did not say that, or you did say that," like, so like,
Mhm.
wow, it sounds like my relationship is really toxic, guys,
Oh
but it's not.
no.
Like it's
You said you like it
but I
you like it a
know
little toxic though, don't you?
I do
Yeah.
like it a little toxic, but I also know, I know that that's happening, and I know that he's not aware that that's what he's
Yeah,
doing. He's
yeah,
not aware of
yeah.
it. And so like
Mhm.
that kind of gives me an extra point of grace to be
Mhm.
like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like it's not a big deal. Like whatever, you know.
Totally.
And
You
so
know
Yeah.
he loves you and it's yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So but
Yeah. It's not
yeah,
malevolent.
Right.
no, yeah, and my daughter too. She changes facts to get her way and make you feel bad for her and stuff.
Mm.
Like it's a thing. And, she kind of realizes that she's doing it, but she doesn't really know why she's doing it. And it's like, but I'll like point out to her, I'll be like, "You're doing that thing."
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
some people who are just like kind of geared, kind of manipulative by nature do fall into gaslighting just without even knowing that they're doing it.
Do you think
So,
that has anything to do
like,
with like compulsive lying at all? I feel like
I
I
think
don't know. Like,
so.
how there's some people, it, and I don't know. I feel like kids are kind of like this too. They just kind of lie for no reason sometimes. You don't even,
They want to see
yeah.
they're just checking the
Yeah,
boundaries.
yeah, yeah. Like they'll just,
Mhm.
and I wonder if there's certain people, there's certain people that have been president of this country that I feel are kind of like that, like just, they just can't help it.
Ugh, I think you can just round up any old politician and throw them in that sack.
Basically, they
Like,
just say what people want to
Well,
hear.
okay, here is my unpopular opinion. I will give you my unpopular
Hmm.
opinion, but based off of what I know, what I've studied, and what I've experienced in my
Hmm.
life, people who are abusive don't like everybody thinks of them as the devil. I don't see most of them as the devil. I think there is a very small percentage of them that do it with malice, but a lot of people are just
Hmm.
reacting out of subsets and learned behaviors.
Hmm.
And so and they become abusive,
Yeah,
and they get the power, they get the position, so they feel it just kind of feeds it and it becomes bigger. But I don't think the person in their base form is evil
yeah.
in most
hmm.
cases. So
See, I've had the unfortunate reality of having multiple of these offenders in my life who were absolutely doing it out of malevolence and
yeah.
like willful intent. So to me, when I hear abusive, I automatically think intentional.
Mm.
Um, but Annette's bringing up a really good point that my PTSD sometimes doesn't allow me to see is that sometimes people are abusive and they're not exactly intending to be abusive. They're using tools that happen to be abusive that they learned from abusive family members because they had an abusive childhood. So, and it sucks because that's really
Yeah.
sad. Like it's sad how generational violence gets passed down. It's sad how generational trauma gets passed down. At the end of the day, as human beings and as adults, we have to eventually pull up our big girl and big boy panties and go to
Examine
counseling, go to
yourself.
therapy, like
Yeah. Be the
take a
combo
look in the
breaker.
mirror and say, yeah, like, wait a minute, how am I maybe contributing to this situation?
Yes. When you stop and you have
You
that
kind of
thought,
you got to look at
like,
that.
"Oh my God, I'm becoming my mother," or "I'm just like my dad," that's when you
Hmm.
can be like, "I don't want to do that to other people."
Hmm.
Now, I want to make this really, really crystal
Yeah.
fucking clear that I said that not every person who is abusive is evil to their core. However,
Hmm.
abusive situations are never okay, and you should never suffer because you think that that person is good on the
That's a
inside.
good point.
It's not.
Yeah.
You can
Right.
end up
It
dead, you
is
can
not
end up
okay.
injured. It's
Yep.
not
Yes,
okay. That is a
you
toxic
could.
situation, and you should
That is
figure a way
so
out.
true.
If you are in physical
Hmm.
danger, you should not
Yeah.
stay.
No matter how much you love that person, if they're
Yeah. And
hurting you,
don't stay for the kids.
no.
Don't stay for the
No, because the
kids
kids will
either.
get, if he's abusing you, he's gonna abuse the kids too. Or if she's abusing you,
Right.
she's gonna abuse the
Yeah.
kids too. It's not just men
Right.
who are the abusers. So
Mm.
No, no, it is not. There are absolutely female abusers out there that, I mean, they're just they can look just as evil as some of the the men that we think of as evil out there, and it definitely goes both ways, and it like I just say don't stay for the kids because I knew a woman growing up whose sons were on my swim team, and when I think I was 17 or 18 when or I was 18 when the news broke around the area that that woman
that's
was found don't say the name was
I'm not.
found dead, burned in a barrel in her backyard,
Whoa.
chopped up into pieces.
Whoa, I don't remember this.
She had been staying for the kids.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I knew the kids in that situation. I had known them for years. And
Wow.
Yeah, it was such a tragic situation, so never, ever stay,
Yeah.
ever.
Mm-mm.
So,
So,
Not at draw the
yeah,
line at physical abuse.
yeah,
yeah,
that's never
and
okay.
another one that
That's
we
never
do not
okay.
we honestly don't think of this very often, and I personally didn't even consider it like an abusive thing until I went to domestic violence counseling, is financial abuse.
Mm.
Mhm.
If somebody is controlling the finances or the money in the situation, um, then that is abusive. And I'm not talking about one partner is, going and paying all the bills every month out of the checking account that's a joint account and that you both have access to. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about um I'm talking about when somebody has all of the passwords locked down to every financial account. I'm talking about, when you're on a joint account, but they keep calling your card in stolen if you leave the house and you didn't tell them about it. I'm talking about people who are not allowed to possess cash money
Mm.
or, you know, go shopping for themselves. People who are not allowed to engage the world on a financial level as an
Yeah,
individual.
they got someone else
That
controlling
is
that for
financial
them.
abuse.
Okay.
Exactly, exactly. There are situations where people will, go out they'll leave the house and one of the partners will call in the card as lost or stolen so that they don't have access to an ATM or any cash.
Wow.
They can't get gas. Yeah,
That's
so
really
if you're
scary, especially for
like
stay-at-home moms that are not working.
Yo, that's what happened to Jen.
Mm.
it is what happened to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was part of how I ended up getting imprisoned in my own home for months on end
Wow.
because I had no access to anything, not even enough gas to drive down the street.
Yep.
Um so basically it was a situation where the car was kept with low enough gas that I could only drive far enough to get to the gas station.
Wow.
I couldn't drive any farther than that. So if I didn't have cash to get gas, I couldn't go anywhere else. So I couldn't
Right.
leave.
You know, it's really scary.
Yeah.
I mean,
S-
how do smart women like us
mm,
end up in situations like that? You know?
By
Because
giving
because
people
we're
the
in
benefit of the doubt over and over and over
Mm.
again despite your better judgment.
Yeah.
Like there's and also, this stuff happens over years. Like, I know that I'm an intelligent and
yeah.
capable human
Yeah.
being. I am absolutely not an idiot. I can promise everybody out there. But I got into a really bad situation because I was willing to overlook too many red flags, number one. And there were red flags that I didn't notice were red flags because I was brought up in an abusive environment. That's number
Mm.
two. And then number 3, it all happened over a long enough period of time that I wasn't able to fully put the big picture together.
Mm.
So, until it was, like, way too late.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
It was like
um and
the
I'm
frog in the
talking it
pot of
was
boiling water is just slowly getting hotter and
Mhm.
it happened over more than 10
yeah.
years. It happened over about a decade's worth of time. So, if you can put I mean, I suppose if you're neurotypical and you can keep all of these balls floating in the air all the time and put all the pieces together, maybe you could recognize this stuff. And I think anybody who was brought up in a safe and supportive household would have noticed a lot of this stuff right off the bat. But there are certain of us out there who just don't know what a good relationship, what a healthy relationship looks like, and what a toxic relationship or an abusive relationship looks like. We're not able to really distinguish
Mm.
those.
Well, and you have
Um,
to remember that people
yeah.
who are abusive are seeking control, and they seek it from
Yes.
people who are emotionally damaged.
Mm.
So,
Yes.
and find me people, how many people can you find with ADHD that are not emotionally damaged from having to grow up with learning disabilities, with relationship
Mhm.
difficulties with RSD,
Yeah.
yeah, where
Mhm.
how we got the stack against us when it comes to emotional security, and
Yeah.
so we
Mhm.
are prey for people who want control
Makes sense,
Yeah,
sadly.
especially since a lot of us tend to be so empathetic,
and
and
people
and
pleasing.
that's
Yeah.
what
Yes, the
they
people pleasing.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah,
Yes. So true.
because isn't that what masking is all
Yes.
about, is people pleasing, making sure
Mhm.
everybody else is
Oh
happy
yeah.
except
Saying
you?
yes to
Um,
everyone. Yeah. Don't want to let anyone down.
yeah.
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 One that we do discuss a lot more is when you're having your visits to family and friends controlled, like the circumstances around them controlled, like, maybe you'll always show up an hour late to an event because the other person always stalls for time and then blames it on you.
Hmm.
That's abusive. If they're always if you know that you can only see your family for 30 minutes at a time, or your friends, because your other half is going to make up an excuse to leave really quickly, that's another abusive thing. That's controlling your time with your friends and family. If you're not allowed to see any of your friends or family without that person with you, that's also abusive.
Hmm.
That's huge control there. And also abusive is the alienation of family and friends. So that's when, to take a step even farther, the person does stuff to piss your family and friends off so that they're not in your life anymore. And they'll usually make it look like it's your fault as well, so that everybody's mad at you and
Wow.
not
So they
them.
make you totally reliant on
I
them.
have
Yeah.
Yep. I
Hmm.
have a
Yeah.
person that I love very dearly who is in that situation. We don't speak much because I, I can't speak freely.
Mm.
The other person always has
Yeah.
to be
Yeah,
around.
that's tough.
Yeah.
So,
That is really tough
and it's
You
because
everything
then
is
know,
you just
yeah,
control.
watch it.
yeah. I have a friend I'm thinking
Alienated
of that was in a
family.
similar situation, and I know that it was coming from a place of insecurity. Her husband was, I think he was honestly jealous because he didn't
Yeah.
have any friends, and so he was jealous of our friendship
Yeah.
and just couldn't handle
Ooh.
it when we were having such a good time together and laughing and oh yeah, it really upset
Yeah.
him. So
Yeah.
insecurity.
That's a big
Oh
red
yeah, they're
flag,
divorced now. Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
oh,
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough
yeah.
though when it's like it's toxic, but when you're in that kind of gray zone, like I feel like my marriage was there were a lot of red flags, but a lot of them weren't that bad, and so I just kind of um saw through it as best as I could and there wasn't
Yeah.
again, there wasn't any like blatant abuse. I mean, if I really picked it apart, you might be able to find some like emotional abuse, but there wasn't any physical abuse or weren't any symptoms. It's like I almost wish it had been kind of
Yeah.
easier and clearer for me to make a decision. But yeah, I was married for like 15
Yeah.
years and um, I really did try. I tried to leave. I tried to leave him before we even got married, and then in 2013, and then finally was able to make the decision to divorce him in 2021. But God, I struggled with that question, should I stay or should I go, for so fucking long. And didn't but like I was saying earlier, like I feel like you have to really know yourself, and I did not know myself. I was masking for so long,
Mhm.
just trying to be this perfect person for everyone. And growing up at a church had part to
Yeah.
do with that, and just wanting to please my parents, wanting to please other family members, I guess. I stayed with him for all the wrong reasons. I wasn't happy though, and so
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, but it's just so tough when it's like not blatantly bad, like you deserve better, but you've already invested so much into
Yeah.
this and you have kids together and it would
Yeah.
be such a huge life change and change is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
So it took me
is.
a long
And
time.
I think it should be yeah. I think it should be pointed out that just because your situation isn't abusive, if it's toxic, you can still make that call like, "You know what? This is too toxic for me personally. I do not personally see the benefit of continuing this toxic
Oh,
relationship."
totally. Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's
Even if it's
okay.
mildly toxic,
You do
if you don't
not
want to be there,
have to be abused to
exactly,
leave.
exactly. If you don't want to be
Yeah,
there, get out.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I think if
yeah.
you can't envision a happy future, this goes for work,
Mm-hmm.
this goes for friendships, this goes for family members, this goes for anything.
Mhm.
If you sit there and you cannot imagine happiness on the horizon or anything good in coming from that situation in the future, you should get
Yeah.
out.
Honestly,
Yeah,
it does boil down to
yeah.
that.
And
Mhm,
you guys mentioned your exes. I mean, I had two distinct memories before I got married to my ex-husband, which triggered me, and I went, "Oh, I should not marry this
Mhm.
person." And then I ignored it, and but I remember being just married and going like, "I wonder how many years after how many years we're going to get divorced." Like
Mm.
in my head I
Mm.
always knew we were going to end up divorced.
Wow. That's wild.
Like because I knew that that was not my life partner. Now, my husband. Now we've already mentioned that we have some toxic traits going on. However, I don't. I can spend the rest of my life with him. I
Mhm.
don't. I see happiness in my future. I'm fine. Like we are
Yeah.
good, and
That's
so
good.
it's like I don't. Should I divorce him? Never once has entered my head in 10 years of marriage, but it entered my head almost every single day in my
Mhm.
past relationship. So if that is plaguing you, get out. If you're constantly sitting at your desk going, I think I should quit. I think I
Yeah.
should quit. I need to
Your
get out of this.
happiness
Like
is
like
worth it.
get
And I think that
out. Yeah.
I think especially women lie to ourselves and tell ourselves like, my happiness isn't important. It's more important that my kids are happy or that my partner's happy or everyone else is happy, but like no, your happiness matters. Your peace matters.
Yeah.
Your security, like you
mhm.
deserve to be living your best life right now.
And I think
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
I think everybody knows. This isn't something that like one day they're like, "Oh, I think in the back of your mind, like cuz there's a difference. I mean, my job is
Mhm.
hard, but I like it. I've had jobs where I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
no."
Yeah.
Like like I it might
Yeah.
have been good money, but it was like, I was like, I hate this. I hate this. I don't want
Yeah.
to be here. Don't want to be here. I don't want to be
Mhm.
here. But like, there's a difference between something being hard and something being not right for you.
That's so
And
true.
Yeah.
Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not
if you're
right.
constantly wanting to run, if your instinct in that situation is to run, you
Mhm.
know, you have instincts. Human instincts have evolved over like, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, like come on, millions of years
Mhm.
if you want to go
Yeah.
that far. You have an instinct to run. There is a reason for that. So
Yeah.
if it's hard, but you're like, it's hard, it's stressful, but you can continue and you see a path there,
Mhm.
then for all
Mhm.
means
One thing.
continue. But if you just
Yeah.
can't,
Mhm. I
you
wanted to
know,
mention that back in 2013, we were talking about this before the show, but back in 2013, when I had first decided, okay, I want to leave my marriage. I am done. I'm not happy. Yes, we have a baby together, but I don't see a future with him. Um, shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. I remembered. Sorry. Yeah, because we were just talking about this. You know, people were saying things to me like, and it was true. I was depressed. I had postpartum depression that was not treated until much later. I was really depressed, really stressed, working a really tough job then. So, like, my life was just kind of crazy and I was a hot mess of emotions. And so people were saying, like, whoa, 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 don't make this big life decision to leave your marriage when you're going through all this stress, like, wait till things die down and you feel more normal. And so I think that kind of got in my head, like, oh, yeah, I can't trust myself because, I, so.
But you had wanted
Mhm.
to run
I
before,
know.
so
It's
like that
true.
was
But it's like, but that's almost like, I guess that's not gaslighting, but yeah, when other people are telling you, like, don't trust yourself, like, I don't like that. That feels icky to me.
yeah. It's being dismissive,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, because I
it is.
knew deep
It's
in my
very
gut,
dismissive.
but I didn't trust myself. I did listen to other people. I was like, oh, they're older and wiser than me. They must know better than me.
Wait, you know what? The one quote I absolutely love and I live my life by it is when you are about to die, when you get old, people, if you talk to them, they always regret the things they didn't do,
Mm,
not the things they did. So if you did it,
mm-hmm.
if you cut and run, you're going to have a different
Mhm.
path. And you're not going to regret that. What you're going to regret is if you
You know,
didn't
that
get
is
out or if
so
you
true.
didn't do that.
You don't really ever hear people say, "Oh, I
Mhm.
regret leaving that job," or "I regret getting that divorce." You don't hear that very often, you know? Maybe because as humans,
Not
we
very
just
often,
if
yeah.
we decide to leave a situation, we just have to tell ourselves like whatever happens next is going to be better, you know? But
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I legitimately think my life
oh,
is
yeah, I
better.
mean, I know I made
Uh,
the right choice, but yeah, that is something you can kind of tell yourself.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
think all 3 of us made the right
Mhm.
choice, but in very different situations and for very different
Yeah.
reasons. Like,
mhm,
and that just goes to show that, there can be differences in situations and severities of situations. And, just because Annette and Ellen, didn't have the same severity of situation as I did, I don't discount that they wanted to leave and that that was good for
Mhm.
them. Like, you know, they can like this can all coexist. So and I think now there's this trend of getting into these emotional competitions over like who has it the worst and whose life is the hardest. And
yeah.
oh well, you shouldn't have, it's very dismissive once again
Mhm.
of other
It's
people's
very
feelings,
ableist
telling them that,
too, you know?
well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is,
We all have
it
different
is, yeah,
thresholds,
like just
you know?
yeah, we
Mhm.
do. And just because I can tolerate one thing that, that somebody else would find super annoying or even maddeningly
Mhm.
frustrating on the other end of the spectrum, that doesn't mean that, you know, I'm somehow
Mhm.
better
You're just
or
yeah, you're
that
just different.
the other person shouldn't look at that situation critically. Like, yeah, it's a different situation, it's a different set of
Totally.
tolerances, and we all have that.
Yeah.
And that's what can make us compatible or not to a situation. So like, I
Yeah.
mean, I've had jobs that some of my other friends are like, oh well, that was a pretty good job, why'd you leave that job? And I was like, God, I was
Yeah.
miserable. But maybe they
Yeah.
wouldn't have been miserable in the job that I
Mhm.
left. It would have been good for them. So, like,
Well,
we
I
all have to
mean,
keep that perspective.
Yes.
yeah, how many people can deal with little kids all day? I mean,
Yeah.
I love being a teacher. I love kids. But like every person, you have your own subset. Now, like I look at people who do paperwork and I had jobs that did paperwork and it made decent money. It was
Mhm.
torture.
Couldn't pay me enough to just have a boring
Mhm.
desk job like
Mm.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh.
everyone is just unique
Yeah.
and different and you really like I said, I'm going to say it again, just get to know yourself. Get to know what you need. Write it
Mhm.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you
Get
if
Exactly.
your
high.
instinct is to run, maybe, kind of listen a little bit, listen to your inner voice.
Exactly. There's that
Yep.
yeah. Sometime on the show I want to talk a little bit about the internal family systems therapy I've been studying. But yeah, you've got that
Ah,
inner
Oh yeah.
self inside you. It's that voice that talks to yourself when you're doing something crazy and inside you're like, "What the fuck am I doing? Why am I acting like this?" That's like your core self that is like the
mhm.
calm, curious, kind of zen like, state of your best whatever. And I feel like I finally have started to get to know that part of me, and it's really fascinating to me because that's such a great place
Hmm.
to make decisions from, from that part of you.
Mm,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love it.
agreed.
From the calm centered part and not the
Yeah.
part that's going, ah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your course
I'm
self is cool.
I'm hyperactive ADHD. I don't think that I have a quiet, calm Zen center. I think my Zen center is still going.
Just a little bouncy
Yeah,
ball and
so
a yeah, always moving. Yep.
You're that meme with, like, the my internal voice and then that guy with the hair that's like a hair dryer from Fifth Element. Like,
yes.
that's in her voice.
Exactly.
No, it's the Energizer Bunny, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think even if you have, if you're the hyperactive type, you probably have a, you know, relatively calm side. Like, you have the panicked anxiety side, and then you have the not panicked
Yeah.
anxiety side that's still
It's
very
still
active.
excited, just
So
not
maybe that's
anxious.
where you're making
Yeah.
decisions from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So
Yes.
I guess to recap, we all run into these, yeah, we all run into these situations in life where we ask ourselves, do I need to buckle down and have more grit,
Mhm.
or do I need to cut and run? And everybody's going to come to that place in at a different time, in under different circumstances. So there is absolutely no clean cut explanation for when you should leave a situation, besides if you can start seeing overtly abusive an abusive quality of the relationship, whether
Mhm.
that's a romantic relationship, which we've delved into pretty well here, or if it's a work like relationship where you're, you know like, let's say that your promotions are contingent upon extra benefits that have nothing to do with work. That's abusive. So so if you're being held down oppressively by management for some reason that has nothing to do with your work at all, abusive. Get out. But if it's just, minor annoyances, or maybe you've identified that you or your partner or your boss have toxic traits that are making you feel like that situation may become unworkable for you in the future, or maybe it is at the present, you have to, look at that, say, can this get better? Do I want it to get better?
Mhm.
If you can answer those questions, you'll figure it out pretty quickly what you should really do, regardless of how well you're being paid or how long you've been in the relationship and how many kids you have.
Mhm.
So, at some point, there's always going to be that final insight.
Yeah, you are the center of your own
Yeah.
universe, and nobody else is gonna make
Yeah.
these choices for you. You have to do it yourself. Yeah.
Nope.
It's hard, but that's
It's
life.
all
Yeah.
We're
you.
all on our
So,
own journeys. So,
yep.
Yep.
So get out the spiral notebook, start making a pros and
yeah.
cons list, and see if you even want to negotiate the situation, or if it's just going to be too much for you to
Mhm.
handle. And if it is, no shame, no blame. You just get somewhere that's better
Right.
for
We
you.
all go through phases in our
So,
lives, and there's nobody should feel like they have to stay in a marriage or in a job or
yeah.
anything. We all have autonomy and
Yep.
should be able to make our own choices
Yep.
as adults.
We're we're not
That's right.
required. We're not
This is
required
a
to
free
stay.
country.
So yeah, so if you're kind of listening to this and going, "Oh gosh, this is my work life," or "Oh gosh, this is my relationship," I always at the end of like pretty much every episode say, maybe you should consult a counselor or
Therapy is
therapist.
good.
um, you know, or somebody that you really 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 trust, who has not a toxic trait in sight or whatever,
Yeah.
to help you through this, or maybe their toxic traits are just compatible with you. um so
Or consult the
um
internet. They'll be
yeah,
real
just,
honest with you on Reddit.
I mean,
uh.
yeah, boy, Reddit, yeah, Reddit's an honest place. So if you really want the brutal, honest truth, go to
Yep.
Reddit. They'll give it to you.
Cheaper than
Um,
therapy.
so
But you might need
it
therapy
is.
after all the trolls
But
comment on your post.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, you could wind up in therapy for a whole different reason than how you started.
Yes, but
So
feel free to message
oh,
us with your stories if you're not sure what to do. We'll give you our little opinion.
Yeah.
mhm. Yep, you can always click on our contact link and send us a contact through the website, or you can do basiltovpodcast@gmail.com. You can ask advice from us three who have been through it, and one of us who, is has studied psychology
I mean, we
legitimately,
are elder millennials
and
now.
we
Like
can give
we've
you a
got,
perspective.
some good wisdom now, I think, on us.
Elder millennials. We need like some staves with like little crystals on them or
Yes, and
something like
hoods.
elder
Yeah.
millennial.
Yep.
Or not.
Yes. Oh, okay, fine. Maybe not. So yeah, if you want us to give advice to you via the podcast, go ahead and contact us via really any way you want to. We'll get your message. And thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you all have a really good thinking session and make a lot of good lists. And we'll see you next time. Basiltov.
Basiltov.
Basiltov.